This next video is by LilliePie101, who we've watched a couple of their videos before. Find them to be a particularly interesting streamer and content creator because their takes are often a mix of healthy and unhealthy for the game. So like I get to kind of be like, oh, that was good, I would like that, and then the other thing I'm like, hey, just keep that out of here. Right? like she has very weird views about the game, which she's very dynamic as a content creator in terms of her takes. So I like seeing like things where I'm like, oh wow, that's so off that I don't know how you ever came up with that, and also like, oh, that would actually make the game like majorly healthier if that actually got included. So I like that aspect of her content, so she's always fun to review, right, or react to. Reacting to Andy, yes man, hello. How are you, bud? Also, hey Huffpuff and Duckin', how are you? But yeah, this video I posted in the chat over here on the right for Twitch. For you guys on YouTube, it'll be on the description below. This one is bullying real in DBD? So that's going to be interesting because I kind of, based on her previous takes, I kind of see where she's going with this and kind of preludes to the video we just watched, but we will see how this ends up.
Hey everybody, LilliePie101 here again with another YouTube video for a discussion. This time today's topic is bullying in DBD real? Now I know some people are probably going to be like, okay, well it's not real bullying, just turn off the computer essentially. But in DBD, a shared and common sentiment among players is that it is an us versus them. In terms of literal gameplay,
I think it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, like, I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I've mostly err on the side that, like, yeah, nothing you do in a video game, like, really, like, most things you do in a video game just doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's just a game, right? And I do understand that a lot, right? But also, that's kind of like, there's an elephant in the room there as well. Like, clearly, if somebody is BMing you, they want you to be upset, right? Like you can't pretend it's like, it's just them, because like the big thing I've seen is like, oh, somebody's teabagging, they're just pressing a button, which, you know, technically on the surface level, yeah, you're right, that's all that's happening. And like I told Apple the other day when we had that match for you and they were teabagging, I'm like, you're just losing distance. Go to the next loop. Why are you just sitting there bagging? Leave. Go to the next loop. You know, so it's even technically inefficient. But, like, you can't pretend that, like, there's nothing there, right? Like, they're clearly trying to make you upset, right? It's not just that. Come on. It's like, I'm like, come on. The elephant in the room is like, they actually are trying to be a jerk to you and upset you, right? Like, they're trying to be a jerk. They're doing it on purpose. So, like, they're trying to get under your skin. Well, that's for a tactical advantage, so they'll chase somebody who's, like, you know, have no hooks compared to death hook, or versus like, I'm teabagging you because I hate you and you're stinky and you're mean. It's kind of hard to tell, but usually they're trying to agitate you at the very least. So that is kind of an aggressive thing, right? So you can't leave that out entirely. You can't leave it out entirely.
of course. However, there's been a new wave of players that say they're playing for their fun, not yours, or they bought the game so they can play it however they want, which is true, but where does the line get drawn at exactly? I'm a firm believer that either side can be toxic to one another, or like bullying, etc. Survivors to killers and killers to survivor, but primarily I see killers throw lines out like that as killers to power role. Obviously they can be much more oppressive by dictating how a match goes.
I still disagree with this. Even when I've played both sides of the game, 4-man on comms dictates the flow of the match more than any killer could. I get that generally the killer dictates the role of the flow of the match because they are the thing that can stop everything from happening. But a 4-man on comms dictates the flow of the match. They're still the strongest thing in the game, and they dictate the flow way more than any killer could. That's just me, though.
So after, being around DBD for quite some time now, not just in game, but like, as a streamer, also Reddit, like the forums, and even Twitter, etc. There's like a couple of things among players that are just kind of generally accepted as kind of like toxic or bullying.
Why am I in this match?
These are some of the following: flashlights, Sabo and
not actually, but it's a joke. But
mither squads. You've got dead hard body blocking. You've got teabagging or other gesturing like nodding or pointing or like the come here motion. You've got no-ed, tunneling. You've got map offerings, being hit on hook, camping.
You're saying, like, I know she's giving a generalization of what the community considers to be toxic, but I think it's wild that perks are in there. Isn't that weird? Like, like no ed is toxic, right? Like it's a perk, you know? Like it can be annoying, but it's a perk. How is like hitting somebody on hook and like you know, is like a BM in the same conversation as like bringing a perk into a match? Like, still don't. I've never understood that.
Just a few to name some. But I think I'm gonna talk about some of them that are, I guess, a little bit more controversial because
just throw the whole game out. Yeah, screw it. We can't have anything.
As a full-time content creator, so I've seen a lot of these on like Twitter, Reddit, the forums, like even in game. So I guess we're just gonna go ahead and dive into it. And keep in mind, when I'm explaining this part, I'm gonna try to be as least biased as possible, even though I know I'm your favorite entitled survivor main. But
at least she's honest. Yeah, at least she's honest.
Anyways, so when it comes to different Swift squads,
I've always respected that about people, right? That's what I hate the most about like certain content creators and certain like players out in the community. Is that they'll try to like be like, no, this is the best take for the game, and it's like, no, you're clearly a survivor, entitled survivor main, or you're a crybaby killer main, and you're just putting forth your opinions because you want the game to be easier for you, and you masquerade it like it's like best for the game, right? But it's really only what's best for you. So I will always appreciate somebody who goes, I'm an entitled this, but I want this, over somebody who's like, no, it's totally best for the game. It's like, be honest. Lay your cards on the table so we can talk about this like fairly and openly, and not like you trying to like pull a fast one on me, you know?
But not, obviously, I think playing with friends is like an immense amount of joy. I think playing in solo queue, I mean, it can be fun as well, but, you know, oftentimes...
I played even just in a duo today. I'm going to smash my head through a wall.
Ability of it, and, you know, relying on other people solely is it can be very frustrating, because I've had a lot more unfortunate situations.
Yeah, exactly, Bran, too. Bro, I want to win. I don't care if you have fun. It's dumb. Yeah, like, if you own it, I don't care, right? Like, there was one situation, I think it was a Night Player way back before Skirmishing released. I was like, he was doing the 3-gen thing, and I was like, in the after chat, I was like, wow, that was really not fun. I did not have a good time. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty dumb. Yeah, it's pretty stupid. Like he was like empathetic, right? He was like, yeah, I just kind of wanted to do it, and yeah, it sucks. That guy I can get along with because he knows what he's doing. He's open about it. But like most killers in that same situation would be like, "Oh well, you're just being a crybaby survivor entitled main." Like that Knight knew what he was doing. He was like, "Yeah, it's stupid." That guy I can get along with. The guy that's like, "Oh, it's just totally fair and fine. You're just being a crybaby." Like that guy I can't get along with. Like I've done that before when we had Knight, by the way, we had Eel request back when Eruption used to be the way it was, over Brian Eruption Nowhere to Hide on Larry's. And I won the match in like 4 gens, and I was like, I'm sorry. That was terrible. like I can get along with somebody who's like knows what they're doing and is honest about it, but when they try to gaslight it and make a side-by-side thing, it's so cringy and terrible. It's so cringy and terrible. Why are the phone numbers of their usernames? I'm not sure. It's probably some weird phone, like, meme or phone line. Like, one of those joke phone lines or something.
This happened with solo queue that I have, obviously, with playing with my friends, who I trust. And I just don't do it simply because I want to bully the kill or anything. I just don't want to sit there and one on a gen for over 90 seconds. Like, that's not something that I really enjoy. Obviously, I've never really liked doing gens. It's just unconventional gameplay. Like, it feels rewarding. It feels cool to pull off something that's a little bit difficult. And it's not just to make sure that I bully the kill or anything like that. I just find it fun. And obviously, I can...
Things that are irritating are not always unbalanced. Like saboing, flashlight saves. If anything, you're not doing gens if you're doing those things. You're doing it specifically to A, have fun, and B, stop the killer, right? Like, irritation does not always mean unbalanced.
Acknowledge that it might be a little bit frustrating for killer, but to be honest, I think...
Same thing with, like, I'm like, slugging somebody, right? Or if there's 2 people around hook, I proxy, right? Like, I'm not doing it to make you mad. I'm just doing what I do. I am the killer. I go after people. It's like what I do, It's like, I'm not trying to make you mad. Is it certainly irritating for somebody to proxy or slug? Yeah, but, like... I'm not doing it to make you mad. I'm just playing the video game. Is it irritating? Probably. But irritation doesn't mean unbalanced.
against it makes you a little bit of a better killer because you learn how to avoid these things in the future. And even then, when I get outplayed by a killer from time to time again, when I'm trying to do these like flashy tricks and stuff like that, it just makes it so much more fun because it's a lot more engaging than just holding in one on a gen. I don't really feel like I'm outplaying or like really doing much by holding in one on a gen. And it's even better whenever I play as killer with these juicer squads because as survivor, obviously I do the same thing, so I can understand the fun in it, so I don't really get as frustrated as I used to.
You know, I'm going to say something to this because this is more for my YouTube audience because I know a lot of you are very, very entitled killer mains. That's just kind of the audience I have. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe they're just remnants of when I used to be an entitled killer main. I for some reason, gravitate a lot of very entitled killer mains into my audience. I want you to go flashlight save. Spend a day learning flashlight saves. I guarantee you will come back the day after your flashlight save day as an immensely better killer. Because there is nothing better to counterplay either side of DBD, but to counterplay survivors than to know their playbook and to know what they like to do. So I'd either spend a day either personally learning flashlight saves yourself, or I would actively watch somebody who goes for flashlight saves. Because if you do that, I guarantee you're going to like be able to like completely dunk on those people that irritate you because you're going to know exactly the kind of plays they like to go for and you're going to seek them out before they even get into position. Most of the time, like you guys see that I don't get flashlight save very often. You know why? Because I know how to beamer save. And I've played with people that love the beamer save. I watch people like the beamer save. I know most of the plays because they're in my playbook too. So I just counter them most of the time because I just know what's coming. It's easy to counter something that you know is coming. So like, stop being like, oh, it's so irritating and stupid. And actually, like, do something to prevent it. Stop saying it's irritating and dumb and actually, like, learn the counterplay. Learn the playbook so you can get around it. Like, it's just, oh, it's so frustrating.
But it also feels really good to outplay those things because I'm like, okay, well, I know what they're going to do now, so here we go. But even then, there may be some times where I get outplayed because of it, and it just happens to be more fun because of the uniqueness, like the interactions, like there's so much more going on to it. I also think something that should be talked about is also, I guess, NOED. I know NOED is typically seen as like an unfair perk, but I mean
it is
basically like the duration of like 5 gens or so to make it so that you actually cleanse a totem. But
yeah,
on top of that, you
it's a
also
very preventable perk. If you really, really hate NOED, you can like, you know, pop all the totems, just not deal with it, right? But that is a time waster. That is a time deficit, and time in DBD is gen time. Getting exposed downs just cuz will always be really, really strong and arguable if it's fair or not, right? Always. That is the reason why NOED, despite being a general perk, is still used by players way after they get all their teachables or get most of their teachables. Because it's just really good. Just to expose downs for free just cuz. Like, ooh, sign me up. That's why Starstruck was so good for so long on Nurse, because like I pick people up and now they're exposed and I can just zoom at them immediately. Like, sure. Like, who would not take free exposed, right? So, like, it doesn't make the perk toxic. It just makes it, like, super strong and arguable whether, like, hey, should they have to earn that or not? Or that's a different conversation. Is it toxic? No. Is it strong? Oh, yeah. Is it fair or unfairly strong? That's a conversation to have, but it has nothing to do with the toxicity conversation or bullying, right?
You can see the aura of it revealed after about 30 seconds from when it's revealed, I believe. But if you just so happen to go down next to it and
yeah, they can just chuck you next to it.
Leave, I mean, it's kind of, it is what it is situation. But some killers may feel like they need it in their build, but also some of them play on the chance that survivors will, you know, just not cleanse it. And that's the funny thing. Sometimes it actually works. Tunneling and camping is also a huge one, but I don't think always killers do it on purpose. I think sometimes people
oh yeah, we talked about that last video. Dude literally body blocked an entire hallway and forced me to tunnel him and to get salty about it. It's like, a lot of the times I tunnel, it's like, brother, get out of my way. I'll be trying to go for the unhooker and the dude gets in my way and I'm like, okay, fine, I guess I'm tunneling you now. And then they get mad about it. I'm like, what did you want me to do? You were stopping me from playing in a fun way. You were literally preventing me from playing fun, and now you're going to yell at me? Like, brother, stop.
Camped, or sometimes your teammates will get them camped, or sometimes you can get yourself tunneled. And here's what I mean by this. I think if you have BT after just getting off of the hook, and then you decide to body block the killer from going after the person that was unhooking you, the killer is probably going to end up tunneling you because it seems like you want
I just
to
said
get
this.
chased
I just
again.
said this.
Or if you try to force your DS is literally a 2-second stun now, so
3 seconds.
after that 2 seconds is over, I hope you've got enough distance gained, because I'm probably gonna go after you again. It seems like you wanted to be chased, so let's go ahead and get chased. Same thing goes with camping. I think if a teammate decides to sit there and loop around you, I mean, I have no choice but to chase them.
My big thing that I cause a lot, that I end up camping a lot for, is when teams just save immediately. Like within tear radius, like I will be like 15 meters away, which is not that far for some people that travel at 115 speed. And then like the unhook happens, like when I am probably still in eyesight of them. Like I can turn around and see them with my little eyeballs. I can turn around and see them. Just unhooking immediately. And I'm like, okay, fine. So what you're telling me is that you don't care about safe saves, so you're going to do this as long as I let you get away with it. So I need to stop you from doing this and stick around a little bit, right? So that's that's one of the things that I camp for. It's just like, if you're just going to start saving willy-nilly, like I'm not around, I'm going to assume that you're going to be there trying to go for the quick save right away next time and probably catch you.
Right? I get to secure second state or even your death in the game. And again, why would I necessarily deny that? I don't really have a reason to leave. That's not me doing it maliciously, but those events just happen.
Yep.
Obviously, this is like an excluded scenario. I was using this as B-roll footage, but I mean, this guy's camping and he's not doing it for like any specific reason other than just to kind of be him, I guess.
Yep.
Like, I didn't really.
I mean, he's smacking you on hook and stuff, so yeah.
Or anything like that. He's also hitting me on hook as well and like sawing me. So I'm assuming he's pretty angry at me. So again, like, this is probably malicious, but I mean, hey, if that's what he wants. I also think map offerings are also sometimes misunderstood, because I think a lot of the times survivors will bring maps that are like really comforting to them.
The map offerings are just brought for an advantage. Map offerings almost 99% of the time are brought for advantage. For both killer and survivor. I think map offerings are never brought and everybody's happy about it for like 99.9% of the time. There's never, I almost feel like there's almost never a time when somebody brings a map offering and everybody's like, all 5 players are like, woohoo, this is going to be great. You know, there's always going to be somebody like, oh, you know, whether that be, you know, survivors bringing Corn or Ormond. So like, hey, it's a survivor side map, but it's not Batum, so you're not going to DC, right? like, you know, that. Or people bring in, like, you know, Larry's as stealth killers. It's like, well, it's not technically a completely killer-sided map, but it benefits my specific killer, you know? It's like, you know. Not, by and large, it's very rare that all 5 players are happy with a map offering being brought. It's usually to make one of these people or more miserable.
I never realized how survivor-sided Batum was, but
yes,
it was one of my favorite maps for
one of the
longest.
biggest maps, most survivor-sided maps in the game.
I understood why it was so hated whenever I started getting it as killer.
And it has 3 main buildings. Like, why? It has House of Pain. It has it has the Batum preschool itself. It has the 2-story house, and it has Shack. Why does the map have 3 main buildings and Shack? Like, brother, why? Why?
But I was not very knowledgeable of that. There are also some killers that will bring map offerings just because they bring comfort to them. Like, for me personally, sometimes I think I would prefer playing on Auto Haven whenever I'm playing Spirit and whatnot.
But Auto Haven is a fairly balanced, like, map pool, besides like Gas Heaven, right? That's why we call them the tryhard keys or the tryhard bones, because Macmillan and Auto Haven, despite some outliers, kind of spawn more generally balanced maps, which is why the people go there.
Not necessarily for like a huge advantage or anything, it's just something that like is a little bit easier for me, especially considering how hard RNG can be at times, or the amount of palette filled maps that I could normally have that I don't really feel like dealing with. There are also some puntresses that will prefer cold wind maps because of the open areas, especially rotten fields and whatnot.
Nope.
So those things exist. This is also somewhat of a newer one, but hitting on hook I don't think is always malicious either. There are some people that cannot stand.
Yeah, some people stop the screams, do it to stop the scream.
Considering this new update,
I think it's pretty obvious to tell that, though, right? Like, if they smack you once and then just leave, I feel like that's a little... You're probably stopping the scream, but if they're, like, smacking you a bunch, they're, like, trying to, like, get a rise out of you, right? I feel that one's pretty easy to tell.
A lot of the survivor screams are very, very long.
Yes, it's so bad.
Pay attention to details around the hook or across the map and whatnot if I'm listening out for stuff, so sometimes I will hit the survivor on hook to shut them up. But it's not because I'm hating the person on hook, or it's not because, you know, I'm wanting to be malicious. Sometimes it just annoys me. Body blocking is also another hot topic. A lot of killers will think
Body blocking is not toxic. I've seen this in my YouTube comments. Brother, body blocking is just the right play. Have you slugged before? It's just the right play, right? Body blocking is sometimes just the right play. If you want to say that body blocking is inherently toxic, give me your slugging. Give me slugging then. Let me take your slugging away. Because sometimes that's just the right play too, isn't it? And it's not inherently toxic either, right? Let me take your slugging away. No more slugging for you. Because that's essentially the survivor end on the other end. Is like, I'm going to take a body block so this person doesn't get down and hooked again or down and slugged again. It's kind of like the anti to slugging. So if you want to say that that's not sometimes the right play and it's just inherently toxic, give me your slugging. Give me the slugging. Because it's your version of it. So you better be cool with both. Just saying.
That survivors are doing it just like bully and things like that, but no, sometimes I feel like there are killers that realize maybe this person is on death hook. Again, killers can only see the amount of hooks that they have, not the particular hook on each person, so going off of memory.
If you just have a brain, you can track that. I think it's so wild. People come to my stream all the time when I'm playing killer. They'll look at me like, where's your hurt counter? Where's your hurt counter? How do you know who you hooked and who you haven't? Where's your hook counter? It's like, brother, you can keep track of that in your head. Like, you can literally keep track of it in your brain anytime you want. Anytime you want. You can keep track of it anytime you please. How do you do it without, how do you do that without the counter down there? It's like, it's easy. Just use your brain. Use your head. Please. Use your noggin.
Sometimes you may forget, oh, this person's dead on hook. And I am actually guilty of that. Sometimes I try to let survivors go, but I don't realize that they're dead on hook. And I'm like, damn, why are these survivors body blocking me? Those kinds of things. And then I realize, oh, this person was dead on hook. Or alternatively, maybe they just have a challenge to take protection hits.
There's that too.
Or maybe they just want to try to be altruistic.
Or trying to get medal value.
Just to get the game up. Now, there are some cases where I guess there could be actual bullying in DBD, but these are more so things that basically serve no purpose in DBD. So let's talk about them. So for starters, bringing a certain map, but with boil over. This could be maps like Ormond or Dead Dog, where, you know, the survivor brings the map offering, and once they've gotten down, they like to crawl to a specific area where when you pick them up, they cannot be taken to a hook. Super
so irritating.
Super annoying. Hiding and stealthing as a survivor is also one. I guess this sort of depends because I don't think people always do it maliciously.
I don't think this is even something that upsets the killer the most. Like I get more upset about this if I'm the fellow survivor and I see them lurking around like that. I get more mad if I'm fellow survivor and I see my team doing that. Like, I'm like, brother, stop. How is stealthing toxic? Okay, I don't think they mean like stealthing as an action is inherently toxic, but like what it leads to, right? Like if you unhook me and then immediately go hide, you're resulting in me getting tunneled, right? Like you're making me have a worse match because you want to stay safe. I think that's kind of where they're more what they mean is like what happens as a result of it. But obviously, most of the time, stealthing is just because survivors are dumb, right? Stealthing isn't done on purpose a lot of the time. It's just like, oh, I'm scared. I'm gonna go hide. Like it's very like instinctual and stupid, right? It's like flight or flight. I'm gonna flight. I'm gonna flee. It's very much not like. It's just people playing badly more than it's like malicious. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's toxic. So I've played with randoms that like. I will unhook and hide every single time. I will unhook and hide, and I will always let you get tunneled. Those people suck. Those people stink.
Dragging a game out to the point where it has been over 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Like when I get down to like the last two players and they all like hide in lockers around the map and yeah.
Because you don't want to lose.
Get me out.
Definitely no purpose. Definitely making it so that everybody's miserable. And this one is also probably going to be controversial, but I think specifically because somebody's like P100 or streamer, maybe a marginalized group, those kinds of things, specifically camping, tunneling, for those exact reasons.
Yeah,
really serve a purpose
for those exact reasons. And that's the key thing we're talking about last video. It's like those exact reasons, right? For those exact reasons, yes. Yes, for those exact reasons. If you're doing them just around, right, like whatever, like you do you, but like if you're trying to make somebody miserable because of something they can't help, like come on, it's no reason for that.
be miserable, trying to be rude, things like that. Just weird. And like I said, I can understand some of the reasons that I gave earlier for camping and tunneling, and I'm fine with those. But in cases where people do get unfairly targeted, like I've got a fair share of experiences with it, I do find that to be an issue particularly. But as a content creator, of course I can go next as many times as I want, but I just kind of feel for the people that just have ordinary lives, 9 to 5, and they don't have much time to play DBD, or maybe they can only play on the weekends.
I do tell home. No, that is the right. That is the right decision. That is the right answer. That is king, queen, emperor behavior, Maxie. Always do that. You know what? 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 That is king of the world, emperor of the world behavior. That is peak. Always do that. Everybody should do that. Join me. Join today. Tunnel out your local homophobe.
More funny to me because it's been happening so much more often, but not picking up a survivor or bleeding survivor out. I could understand.
Oh, I would do. Yeah. Now this is flipped, right? Like if I find out somebody has those beliefs, like if I run into that Jake again that we brought up in the last video, the Jake that like went for my pride charms because he was mad I tunneled him. Oh, if I run into him again, I'm bleeding him out. I'm leaving him on the floor for the full 4 minutes. You could eat for it, dumbass.
Or if a survivor crawls to an unhookable area, or again like with a boilover, but
yeah, in
I
comp
have been
corner.
getting bled out simply for I guess just looping, or I guess trying to resist against the killer by any means. And again, I'd understand if I had boil over, or maybe if I crawled to a corner, or if I was in an area with no hooks, but that's simply not the case most of the time. And it's also extra frustrating because Unbreakable base kit has not been added in yet, and Unbreakable itself is one-time use. But when they're bleeding you out, typically it's towards the end of the match.
There's really no reason to bleed somebody out unless they're doing the boil over shenanigans. If you're bleeding somebody out, it's usually just a BM. You really have somebody on the ground for 4 minutes. If they don't have boil over, like wiggle out builds, like why? There's kind of no reason. There's no tactical advantage. It's literally just a jerk.
Probably already be used at that point.
Both races, yeah.
In addition to that, it's also just serving
Get them out.
no purpose other than just a killer being angry at a survivor for whatever reason that might be. And this goes for both sides, but noise spamming in DBD. So survivors, when they get frustrated, you know, jumping in and out of a locker, or alternative.
I don't care about this. I don't care about this, honestly. I played killer for years. It's whatever. Like, even when I guess the only time it even starts to bother me is like when I'm like clearly lost and they're like at the exit gate vaulting a power beam, and then it's like, bro, just go. Like, I'm not like they've upset me. Like it's like whatever. This one doesn't really bother me.
Alternatively going through the entire map and just throwing down every single pallet. Killers, maybe they hit on hook over and over again, but especially with Stabiffle, or for example like Trickster with his knives, very irritating, no real purpose, just weird. It's just super annoying to me. This one hasn't been as popular lately, but being held hostage in corners. So basically,
yeah, I haven't really
run
into that.
Like the upstairs gym area on Hawkins. I remember the amount of times I would get body blocked by a killer there, or maybe like the
I can't remember the last time this happened to me.
Which getting body blocked there by a killer when they open up one entrance and then come right behind you and just stand, or maybe even cleansing a totem in a corner. The killer gets behind you, and that's just it. At least whenever you're playing killer, if the survivor decides to body block you, you can hit through them. It's frustrating, but at least you lose collision, you can go through them. Now, I think this one, regardless of bias, everybody hates. Sometimes they can be funny, but hackers. So a lot of the times you get serious hackers, like they load into a game, they immediately finish all gens.
You know what's so wild about this? Guys, we just watched, you know what's funny? We just watched the Spook and Jukes video, talking about the things he believes are making DBD bad right now. And now she's made this video talking about things that she does or does not believe is bullying. And a lot of the things she's considering bullying are things that Spook and Jukes hates about the game right now. I think that's interesting, because they actually have a very similar ideas. Like in this regard, they're saying almost the exact same thing. It's like almost like I watched the same video because we're watching them back to back, right? She's saying a lot of the same things he does. I think they have more in common than they think they do. It's a nice positive. A little nice takeaway.
Sometimes they go around, they scream, or like the forever stuns, or, you know, the insta-blown of flashlights that just last forever and a day, those kinds of things. But there are some funny hackers that are out there, you know, that will like do meme stuff and like fly around, blah blah blah. But for the most part,
yeah, I wish I got more funny hackers and not like
bad.
subtle cheating
I've
hackers.
seen a lot of hackers recently, and it's not been nearly as bad since about, I guess, September, October of like last year.
Oh yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
I guess I've been slowly seeing them on the rise, but not nearly as bad as they used to be. Okay, I retract my statement because I got DDoS the other day, but I got a funny clip out of it. Okay, so...
Is that McDonald's cheeseburger? I haven't one of those in a while. Oh.
So
okay, so...
sums up
bye.
bullying in DBD as a whole for me. But regardless, people can and are going to play how they want, but there's definitely a difference between that and kind of just playing to be annoying or like being...
Yeah.
I've also noticed that people that preach that line about, you know, their fun and whatnot often get upset when they realize their version of fun makes others miserable, causing them to DC.
Yep. Remember, I brought those the example in a previous video. Remember that Blight ran double speed, double slowdown, and camped at 5 hooks at 5 gens? Camped hook at 5 gens. When we kicked it into high gear, when we realized he was sweating, and we were actually like, we were doing a Survivor Friday, so I was actually able to tell Chad, I'm like, hey, those of you who are in this game, let's sweat and get him out of here. And we actually did. He was frothing in the mouth. He was pissed. He was furious with us, right? He called us sweats and was going off in the after chat. And I told him, you guys were there. I told him, I'm like, you're not mad that we sweated. You're mad that you sweated first and we were actually able to beat your sweat. You're not mad that we sweated. You're mad that you sweated and your sweat didn't work and we outplayed you. You tried really hard and you got shit on. A lot of those people that are like, you should just sit here and take my build and take my strong stuff, they fold really easily. Really easily when they lose. When they actually run into somebody who can outplay them. How many times do you guys see me on Killer run into, like, I'm in the endgame screen and I see like 3 proofs and hyper focuses and toolboxes and I 4K them all the time. How many times do you see that? And then we get salty survivors from those. And I'm like, you're not mad that I outplayed you. You're mad that your sweat didn't work. You came to sweat. You brought the perks to sweat. You brought the perks to be obnoxious as hell. You're just mad that I outplayed you. You didn't get to just sit on your little gen and just put in a B and P and prove it out. Like, some people in this game are like that. A lot of people in this game are like that. They're like, you should play however you want, and you should just take these nasty builds. And then, like, the moment they get a nasty build, or a nasty 4-man, or a killer that's able to push through all their bullshit, suddenly the script flips, and they're like, oh no, you're so unfun. It's like, can't have your cake and eat it too.
Next, or be annoyed. So yeah, just because you're entitled to play how you want doesn't mean the other side has to like it, find it fun, or even sit through it. And that goes for both sides, honestly. And I may be a firm believer that people are entitled to DC when they want as well, but that doesn't mean that I can't get annoyed at it. I can understand it at times for sure, but like my previous video, I think mitigating the effects of DCing would probably be more beneficial.
I still think that's incredibly smart that she went that way about that. Like, let's stop pursuing the DC conversation and try to make DCs less painful. I thought that was a really constructive way to go about it. I thought that was a good take.
Yes. Nonetheless, that is the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Make sure to subscribe, and I will try to upload the next video soon.
You should.
Take care. Hello. I don't even... What?
Oh, she gave up. I was like, what?
Body check.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, like, I actually was, once again, pleasantly surprised. Considering, like, you know, kind of like watching her streams and like the videos she's already released, I was expecting her to consider like a lot of things bullying, but realistically she actually had really good takes. She didn't consider most of the things in the game bullying, which is really cool because realistically it's not. Right? Realistically it's not. There's a few things, right, like that we already talked about, but by and large it's just playing the video game, right? It's just playing the video game. There's not a whole lot that's like considered bullying, and it is obnoxious when people are like flashlight saves and saboing or bullying, or like, hey yo, like, you know, like stuff like that. Like flashlight saves and saboing is bullying, or like, what would be a good killer example? Like something a killer could do, like, oh, every tunnel is toxic, right? Like all tunnels are toxic, all camps are toxic, all of them are, right? I think there's a very clear difference between somebody tunneling at 5 gens and somebody tunneling at 3, right? Somebody tunneling at 2 or 3 gens, they're trying to win the game. Somebody who's tunneling at 5 gens is surprise comp match. Hopefully you enjoy. You know, it's much different, right? I think it's fairly easy to tell, and I feel like it's common sense if you really think about it. It's just that people have their own biases and takes that they try to kind of like, you know, curve things to their advantage, curve things to their point of view. And I'm really, you know, very pleasantly surprised that she for the most part also just kind of understands like, yeah, it's common sense. Remember we had that conversation at the beginning of this video? I'm like, well, there's usually an elephant in the room when somebody's doing a certain thing, and it's pretty easy to tell, you know, even if you're like, oh, well, it's technically just somebody, you know, hitting their attack button at the hook. Like clearly they're, you know, clearly they're trying to get a rise out of me. But like, you know, she talked about that, so yeah, I basically agree. I basically just agree. I don't know what else to say. Good video. I agree with basically everything you said. I do want to touch on this aspect again, though. It's like, you and Spooks and Jukes, like, really ironically, actually agree about a lot of, like, bad behavior in this game and what would be considered bad behavior and things that suck to go through. So, like, I know that they had that Twitter exchange recently where they went at each other, which we discussed more in depth at the in the last video. They actually have a lot in common with, like they're just, like, you know, kind of considering a lot of things in the game that people consider bullying, not bullying, and things that are actually problematic in the game. Like they have a lot of similar takes, so I think there's a lot of common ground there if they could, you know, yeah, there's a lot of common ground there, more than they probably realize. So I thought that was nice to see. It was nice to see. You speak of Troy, you know, I'm just pointing it out, right? I'm here to react, and that's my reaction. Is like we just watched the Spooks and Jukes video, and then we watched this, and I heard a lot of similar things. So, you know, it's always nice to look and see that, you know, we're not so apart as we think we are. Yeah.